So you can work just as many hours or more, but maybe you work some of them after you've put your child to sleep from your living room or from your kitchen table. So I think technology offers tremendous opportunities to women and women entrepreneurs, and we're seeing that in terms of the explosive global growth and domestic growth we're experiencing in the United States. But going back to public policy, I think it's incredibly important we have policies that support the modern working family. You see in tax reform the expansion, the vast expansion of the child tax credit, recognizing the massive investment parents make into their families at a time when wages have stagnated for so long, and working parents really need relief. The child independent care tax credit, tackling the cost of childcare and the fact that it's not only inaccessible in large portions of the country, particularly in rural America, but the cost is enormous to many American parents, and they're unable to afford to provide high-quality childcare. So that's another issue we're addressing. So you see some of that agenda coming to life through components of tax reform, and coming into the new year, you will hopefully see it in a national paid family leave program that we're working hard to build coalitions of support for. The president included it for the first time ever in his budget this year, paid family leave, maternity, paternity, adoption, and I'm very encouraged by that step, and we'll be working with Congress to try and pass what is a long overdue policy. So that's where you have public policy and many other things we're doing. This is a panel focused on skills training and workforce development, and we're really seeking to fuel that and make sure that we have the best trained next generation, K through 12, rethinking what we're teaching and the alignment of what's being taught in the classroom with the jobs available in the economies into which the students are graduating, but also worker retraining and skills training for older workers whose jobs have been displaced or are looking for new opportunities in their own lives as well. So this is an area we've been very focused on, and I can talk about in more detail if the conversation takes us there. But you'd mentioned the private sector, and I can't say how important this is. I mean, it's really all innovation comes from the private sector. That's where it starts, that's where it originates. And government, and thank you to all of you out there and you incredible entrepreneurs who are taking some of the world's greatest challenges and obstacles, whether it's humanitarian aids or just providing a service better or reinventing or inventing a new idea. So it's incredibly exciting what you're doing, but government's role is to help fuel that, to eliminate barriers, to create an environment in which you can really accomplish your dreams and your goals, and we're seeking to do that domestically, and very excited about the work we're doing internationally to create opportunities for entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs, especially in the developing world.
Fabulous. In fact, let me compliment the Trump administration on, as you said, as you put it, long overdue, policy reforms which are in the offing now, and I do hope Congress passes it, and I do hope the Trump administration actually has a huge victory, especially in this very, very important sector. Chanda, you have a very ambitious ICICI digital village outreach program. You've already targeted 11,000 villages across 17 states, and out of which you've already created 7,500 women entrepreneurs. So what goes into ensuring that these women entrepreneurs in these villages from the rural settings, how are they empowered? How do you ensure that? I'm sure there must be obstacles in trying to bring them into the workforce. I'm sure there must be a lot of challenges. How do you overcome that? And how do you also ensure that they stay on top of their game? And how do they keep sustaining what they do?
So let me take this in two parts. Let me also tell you what we do at ICICI to just encourage women participation in a large organization. And then let me tell you, as our CSR, what do we do in the villages to encourage women, in the rural areas. So in the organization, as I mentioned, we are an absolutely merit-oriented organization. And in fact, if people ask me, do you have special policies for women? We actually do not have real special policies for women. And I think the only special thing that we do is to create that environment where women feel confident that it's on the basis of their merit that they will rise.
Fantastic.
Having said that, we also realize that, you know, at specific life stages, women need that special care so that they don't give up. And I'll just point out to a couple of policies that we've started. So we've started something called I Work at Home, where we allow women, you know, especially the young mothers, or even women who have to take care of their elderly parents or parents-in-law, to work from home for extended period. And this is not just about sitting and doing some data entry in some corner, but we create a work environment where through the use of technology, we have their computers linked online with our back-end systems. We have, you know, face recognition so that we know that it's only the woman who's working. We have face recognition to say that if there's too much crowd around the woman and children are moving around, then the computer will shut off. So in a way, we create a real working environment where over long periods, people can work from home and they do not lose out on their career progression if they're working from home.
Fantastic. Fabulous.
The other thing that we've started lately is actually to say that any mother who's got a child up to 3 years of age, and if that mother travels overnight for office work, we of course pay for the mother because she's going for office work, but we also pay for the travel of the child and the travel of a caretaker so that the mother can take the child and caretaker along.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Chanda?
So these are some of the things in an organizational environment. But coming to our skill training initiative, you know, we've started a whole skill training initiative across India. And through that, what we've done is we train those underprivileged youth who are not able to afford higher education. For that, we picked skills which are actually relevant for this kind of youth. So we have about 24 training centers in urban and semi-urban areas in the country, plus around 500 villages where we have taken this skill training initiative. The training skills that we've picked vary from something like a tractor assembly and a tractor repair to electricals to dress designing, garmenting, web designing, and office administration and selling skills. And what we have seen is that as we take these training skills, especially to the rural areas, we have more and more young women joining these training skills. So I'm very proud to say that we train about 100,000 youth every year, and of that, 55% are women.
Fantastic. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. More than 55%.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And this is what we were talking about before with really so much of the leadership happening in the private sector and government taking these great programs and fueling them and really bringing them to scale. So, you know, some of the most successful examples of skills training we've seen when we've looked across the globe at various apprenticeship opportunities are when government teams up with industry or government teams up with technical schools, community colleges, creates curriculum, and then that curriculum is taught to students, and then on the other side, they get a job from a private sector employer. So really creating that ecosystem and making sure there's an alignment with the classroom skills and a curriculum that will actually lead to a good paying job. And a lot of it's outside of the traditional four-year college track. I think in America, we've gotten so focused on the importance of university that we've really done a disservice to a lot of people who could have had great paying jobs, who could have gone a different route, who could have learned skills and maybe had skills better suited to the work that they wanted to do and would have benefited from technical education or apprenticeship and real on-the-job training. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity in what you're describing, and 100,000 people a year, that's amazing. So.
That's exactly what my point was.
And since you asked how do they stay into it, you know, so what we do is we create courses where the content is such that it ensures them a livelihood. What we've done in the digital villages is that we've actually digitized a whole set of financial payment systems so that it becomes inclusive for people to actually carry on their financial transactions and not suffer for the lack of having a bank account and so on and so forth. Then we provide, after providing them skills, we provide them credit linkage. so that these people are able to get, you know, an ability, access to credit so that they can start a livelihood of their own. And we provide them market linkages. So we link them, either if somebody's learned garment manufacturing, then we link them to the garment factories around the village so that they get a, you know, constant source of business. Or if somebody's learned office administration, we link them to the companies so that they get a job. And therefore, this 55% women who are part of this initiative, almost 95% today are standing on their feet and earning some livelihood or the other of their own.
Brilliant, brilliant. That's a great story.
Yeah, and
That's
what we've seen is that this gives them not just an economic confidence, but it actually gives them a confidence of investing back into their families, into their villages, because I again believe in this phenomena that, you know, you say that if you educate a man, you educate an individual. But if you educate a woman, you educate a generation.
Absolute generation. Well, 55% plus employment in the rural economy. Let me go back to you, Karen. In Dell, you're leading a couple of very interesting inclusiveness and diversity initiatives. One which is called as Women in Search of Excellence, WISE acronym. And then you also have another very interesting program, Men Advocating Real Change, or MARC. You want to talk about it a bit more?
Sure. I mean, this is an area that is clearly near and dear to us, and I'm sure is important to everyone in the audience. You know, you asked the question, what are companies need to do to get more women into leadership roles and help with skills? We launched a couple of years ago unconscious social bias training. The biases that exist in society today, Cherie talked about some of them when it comes to women and, you know, being married and those types of things. They have to be addressed. Men need to be part of those conversations, and that's what we did with the MARC, Men Advocating for Real Change training that we have done. We have trained nearly 90% of our executives. We made a goal that we're going to take it out to all frontline managers by the end of next year. It teaches all of us that we have biases, and it's how you respond to those. And it's what you do to lead your teams through those and recognize that the world is a better place. Business outcomes are great when you have diverse thinking that you can enable. And corporations are just better places when individuals can come in and feel that they can be themselves and really contribute to the company and the organization. We also have a very, very robust employee resource group. Our Women in Action resource group is the largest resource group that we have. It is 13,000 employees strong. We have 40 chapters around the world. We are using that employee resource group to fundamentally help drive some of the policy changes around paid time off, around enabling our flexible work from home solutions. We clearly see that technology can enable how women and men can work from home. We have sites across Dell where nearly 50% of the workforce works from home 1 or 2 days out of the week. And this has actually been a huge enabler for us to hire women back into the workforce that have taken some time off, that have children, that their children are getting older and they want to come back. And there is an untapped potential labor pool that is out there of women that have master's degrees, that have started their own businesses, that we are actually rehiring back at Dell. And they're continuing to lead, you know, major organizations and functions for us. And a lot of that is enabled through a lot of these practices.
No wonder you won the Working Mother of the Year, 2012, the award by the Working Mother magazine, because the work-life balance, I think, you talked about. So Sherry, going back to you, when you launched your foundation in 2008, you talked about how women being a part of the workforce is going to lead to stronger economies. You want to elaborate a bit on that and what your foundation has done to further the cause in the last 9 years?
Well, I think the frustration I feel after, as you say, we founded the foundation in 2008, is that, you know, all the research we see all the time shows that by empowering women, by women getting engaged in the economy, that makes for stronger economies. McKinsey recently produced a report which said that the world GDP would increase by $28 trillion if women were given equal access to economic opportunities that men have. And yet this year, the World Economic Forum Global Gender Gap showed that when it comes to women's equal access to economic opportunities, we've actually gone backwards. So the dial hasn't gone forward, it's actually gone backwards. So what is going on? There are clearly, it's not enough to keep producing evidence that empowering women makes a difference. We've actually got to make sure that people do something to implement these things, because there are barriers. Take here we are in India, amazing country, vibrant, so much going on, and yet India has one of the lowest participations in the workforce of women in the world.
Absolutely.
It is right down there with some of the poorest countries in the world, and does worse, for example, than countries like Bangladesh. So only, I think it's 27% of women over the age of 15 participate in the workforce in India. And when you look at women graduates from India, 67% of those do not go on after graduation to participate in the economy. So that is a huge disadvantage for India. And if these women were contributing their talents to the economy, then the Indian economy would be doing even better. So why is that happening? And we've touched on some of those things, and what we have tried to do with our programs is to help women get the skills, to get the information that enables them to break down some of these barriers. We talked a little bit, you mentioned, Karen, about the women returners. You know, when we talk globally about women entering into the economy, we then often segue into girls' education, which is so important. But in a world where so many women get married very young, if we ignore the women, as you were saying, who after they've had their families, and if you get married at 15 or even 18 and you have your children very young, you are still very active and got a lot to give in your 40s when you're possibly even a grandmother. And yet it's very much more difficult for women at that level to repenetrate the job market. And one of the ways you can reach these women is to bring them skill training, to give them access technology, so you reach out to them where they are, whether it's as in Chandra's program in the villages, and we did a great program with Mandeshi Bank in Pune recently, where they were already giving microfinance loans to women in the rural areas, and we added to those loans a component of business training. And as a result of that, we found that the women not only got the money, but they used the money more wisely, and therefore were able to increase their business skills. So I just wanted to tell you the story about one of the women that I met there, who'd been on our training course. And she was 37, she already had 2 teenage children. 6 years ago, she was working in her shop, and she cut off her left hand on a slicing machine. Obviously, this was a huge problem for her, but she picked herself up, she came on the course, got a loan, and as a result of the business training, realized that she needed to diversify her business. As a result of that, it ended up increasing her income fourfold, which enabled her to pay for her daughter, who she wants to become a doctor, to stay on at school beyond the age of 15, which was the age that she herself got married. But I asked her to describe her day for me, and I just wanted to share this with you. So she gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and she then, from 5 to 8, milks the 10 cows that she now has to produce milk to go to her store. She goes back at 8 o'clock, and she then feeds her family and gets her children off to school. At 10 o'clock, she goes to her shop. And by the way, remember, she's only got one hand. And she works in her shop between 10 o'clock and 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, she goes back and milks the cows again until 8 o'clock. And then at 8 o'clock, she goes home and she feeds the family again and prepares for the next day, and she goes to bed again then at 11 o'clock at night in order to get up again at 5 o'clock in the morning. That's a woman who is absolutely devoting herself to getting the best out of herself and her family. And she's the sort of woman that by supporting and the fact that she's done so well has increased her prestige in her village as well. So, you know, these are the sort of programs. Now, the other sort of thing we do is for a different level of woman entrepreneur, and we have what we call our blended learning training programs. These are like 3-month mini MBA courses. And the point about the blended learning programs is though the women come together to do the business training, most of the course is delivered over the internet so that they actually don't have to leave their businesses. Because if you're a woman entrepreneur and you started a business and you're progressing that business, but you need the business skills to expand that business, it's sometimes very hard just to walk away and leave that business. But by using technology, we can provide training to women where they are so that they can carry on their businesses and still get the skills that they need to develop. So a program we have in Nigeria, for example, it's called The Road to Growth. One of the women on that program who did our course, for example, was a psychiatrist trained in the UK. She came back to Lagos to start a mental health clinic. And she said, you know, I'm obviously an intelligent woman, but no one had ever taught me about business skills. So I start this business, I know how to do the medicine. But, you know, then it's a question of, well, how do I manage my finances? How do I manage my staff? How do I present a business plan? And so the blended learning training gives women these skills, but doesn't require them to have to go away for weeks and months on end in order to be able to do that. So we have to find practical solutions to help women who are earning money now do better at what they do without requiring them to have to make the sort of